What's up guys, welcome to the final week of my Crimson Moon's Fairy Tale Ruler deck profiles. I'm going to be doing Helsing the Vampire Hunter today. That leaves only Puss in Boots and both Pandoras for the next 3 days. I'm actually really excited about this Helsing deck because elves were never really played even when they were released. They were super overhyped at first, but then they kind of faded to the background once the Regalias came out and Bahamut kind of went on top. At my locals anyway, some people were kind of messing around with elves before all of that, but afterwards they kind of just disappeared. And now that Houston is over, and at my locals anyway, a lot of people don't seem to be playing Bahamut anymore. I guess they're just either bored of it or they just want to try something new. I kind of feel like taking this to a local event could be really fun unless you do see a lot of Bahamut, because the matchup against that is really brutal. But yeah, let me show you guys the list. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. It is a really fun deck. And I might actually play it at a local soon too, so let me show you guys the list. For my magic stones, I'm running a Feetsing. This is the only stone I can miss with Gretel, but I think it's really important because if you have a Christie and a Fina and not doubled up on Christies yet to protect each other, I think it's really important that you can use Feetsing to protect Christie, and then that way you can get your second Christie on board eventually. Magic stone I've just wind because I didn't want to have too many missed targets with Gretel, so Feetsing is the only one. For Magic Stone of Black Silence, I wanted access to Flame because it is still a Regalia format, so if you're going against something like Alice or anything that really uses Regalias that's inside the kill range of Flame, I still think it's really important to have access to it. And then for Magic Stone of Blasting Waves, this is for access to Thunder because the 500 direct from Thunder is actually really important because you're swinging for so much damage, so it's just a lot more pressure and you can get game with it a lot easier than most decks. And I also side a lot of red, like Crime and Punishment and Bonsai Attack. I didn't want to main Bonsai Attack because I feel like their attacks are already really high, and even though it gives the Pierce, I just felt as though the pressure that deck applies normally is really strong, and I didn't want to try to overkill them because then I feel like I'm just kind of going for like a win more, and so I decided just in case I'm going against like Vlad or something, I can kind of put on that more pressure if I need to. For my Resonators, I'm running 4 Elvish Priests. This is of course a staple because it is an elf. It does really well in the deck because it lets you ramp, and it's really important because with Finas it actually becomes a really relevant beat stick. So late game, if you have the stones and you don't need to ramp, it's actually really good to attack with too. 4 Gretels to just continue ramping. I want to be able to drop double Christie as soon as possible, and if I can get to that before my opponent has an answer to it, it works really well. 3 Wisemans. I didn't like 4 of this because although it always works with Christie, for people that don't know, on both sides of Christie, she's an elf, and Wiseman says enter, banish this card if you don't control another elf. If you summon Wiseman and it's the only Resonator you control, and Christie is your ruler, or Helsing is your J ruler, you still don't die. Because it's on the field, it totally counts towards the elf you control, and the only time this doesn't apply is when you deactivate Jan and she says destroy all humans. You wouldn't destroy Grim even though he's a human because it says all humans, and to destroy a J ruler and or ruler, I mean to destroy a ruler you would need a card that says destroy target ruler. It's just kind of how the ruling works for that. But of course stuff like Kaguya, who's a human on her deactivated side, it would still kill her. If you're a J ruler, it's fine. Just rulers you can't do that to, but anything else totally counts. So even if you have Puss in Boots as your ruler and you drop a Tinkerbell, because Puss in Boots is a fairy tale, it's instantly 4/4 and not 2/2. So just keep that in mind. And then 4 Christies. Christie is of course like the best elf. You can gain 500 life and draw 2 cards if you have 5 elves. This is actually a lot more common than you would think. Getting 5 elves is totally easy, and when you start off with Christie and then start swarming and they can't target everything, it works really well. If you can get 2 Christies on the board and then do that, it kind of just like makes sure that it's going to go off. So it just works really well. And then Fina. Fina is the only reason I don't run too much removal in this deck, also with Feetsing. The reason why Fina is so good is because since it takes away their symbol skills, their flying and swiftness and everything is totally irrelevant, and I'm totally fine with not having too much removal because I have counters. And if they already have like a kind of an established board and your counters are a little too late, Fina makes me feel really safe because most of the time when I have Fina on the board, everything I have is really big, and so the Resonators aren't attacking anyway, and if they're forced to block, they're eventually going to run out of resources while I'm just gaining resource every turn anyway, especially if you can start drawing with Christie during the draw. So it works really well. And then same as Feasting, if they do have something that's a threat, like let's say a Mephistopheles, and you have a well-established board and you have a lot of pumped up attack from Fina, you can always just take the hit from Mephistopheles, drop Feasting to prevent the damage, so it's rested, so it can no longer block your cards, and then just go over and attack directly. And of course, with a card like Mephistopheles, they also have to banish during that phase, so it just kind of secures your win. I felt safe just siding the removal and not maining it. And then I have one Feasting the Elvish Oracle. I like the stats on this, of course, really well. With Fina, it's 1,000 and 1,400, which is super hard to get over. Even a Flame and Thunder doesn't kill it at that point. And if you're dropping other Feasting, she just gets more counters. Normally, I'm not too worried about establishing these counters, but if you can even have just 2, that's kind of like, if they side in something like Dark Pulse, it's going to cost them 6. And at that point, it's just totally fine. I mean, they're never going to get Dark Pulse off at 6. I'm totally confident they won't. And even at 4, if you don't have the counters on this, you have Cake Zone. So it's totally fine. I feel really safe with the Resonator lineup in this deck. Moving on to the spells, I have 4 Silver Bullet. The fact that this card costs 1 if Helsing or Christie is your ruler / J ruler makes me not want to run the Familiar of Holy Wind. I was showing this deck off to a friend and he was asking me why I wasn't running Familiars, and I told him it's because essentially I could drop 1 for, of course Familiar is a great card, you draw and it's the removal for 300 damage, but I can pay 1 to hopefully draw into something I need, because normally you use it for the draw to kind of thin your deck, or I can pay 1 for Silver Bullet and just grab my Christie or Fina. So I feel a lot safer knowing that with the same cost I could just grab exactly what I need, and with the ramp it's not really too much of a problem to then drop what you search. It kind of has the same concept as Green Cat, only it's a totally great search card, so I'd rather use this. And then 3 Zeeks and 3 Cake Zones. I normally run 2 and 2, but because this deck applies a lot of pressure and your monsters kind of stay on the board a lot, I felt like I would want more counters, because then I could just sit behind a bunch of stones and kind of use what I already have on the field, and if they attempt something I just negate it. Plus with Grettles it's nice to draw off Cake Zone. And then 4 Thunders, like I said, because there's so much pressure, the Thunder in this deck is actually really good. The 500 direct can win you the game often because you get them low so quickly. And then 3 Flame of the Outer World, because like I mentioned, you want to get rid of those J rulers like Alice that can J activate early and have kind of poor stats, so that Leviathan and Excalibur still can't beat Flames fast enough. So I like having access to Flame in any deck. For my side, I have 1 Blazer. Blazer I think is really great because it's kind of anti-meta-ish, and I like that in a deck like this. I like the concept that if they're using a lot of cards like Rukig or Rasputin and they're kind of playing something like a Cthulhu deck, I can just drop Blazer and those Rasputins and Rukigs are now worthless. Because you also have decent draw power with Christie and you can thin the deck with Silver Bullet, having 1 of this, I feel like, if I see it, I see it. If not, it's not totally necessary for the side deck anyway, but I liked having it. 1 Susanoo, same concept, but for the mirror match of dragons. I'm siding for Leviathan. I didn't want to main these because, like I said, I already think there's enough pressure, and I didn't want to go for like a whole win more kind of aspect, and Christie's stats are good enough that you're not really going to see her remove too often anyway, especially with Fina on the board. So I still wanted to have access to them though, just in case I go against Vlad. I do want the win more because in that case they heal so much, it's just to win, it's not win more anymore. So I just sided the Leviathans. 3 Crime and Punishment. Like I said, this deck has a really brutal matchup against Bahamut. It'll just kind of completely destroy you, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't try to be as prepared as you can be. So I felt safe with 3 Crimes. 2 Stoning to Death. Like I said, I don't have a lot of removal, so I wanted to just side it. So I have 2 Stonings, 2 Dark Pulse, which is of course good against a lot of the meta right now. I might start actually maining this card soon in the next format, because I feel as though with Sacred Beast coming out, I know a lot of those are actually 3 drops. We've seen the light one. I think the turtle just got released today too. Most of them are 3, but I feel as though they're going to need a lot of the other beasts on the field early game to then kind of, try to set up for the Sacred Beast later game. And I'm totally fine with just wiping out all of their beasts and then only having to worry about the 4 Sacred Beasts. And I mean, of course, I'll get into all of this soon when we see the whole set and I'm doing deck profiles for those decks. But Dark Pulse has just been really strong, and I'm starting to feel like it's going to be a strong main deck option, not only side. And 2 Bonsai attacks, like I mentioned earlier, with Vlad out, it just seems like a really strong deck. With all the spoilers we've seen so far, there still isn't another card like Volcano that kind of stops healing or stops effect damage. So I feel like Vlad might be an issue after the set drops. They did really well with the Scythe and the Bow from Arla to stop Bahamut. I think it's a really good counter, and a lot of people are thinking that Arla is needed to beat Bahamut because the whole Scythe and Bow combo just kills Bahamut. But I think that what they're not understanding is the existence of the Bow and Scythe with Arla. I mean, the Scythe even on its own, because it takes the imperishable and swiftness away. I feel like those cards being released is enough to stop Bahamut. It just, those players aren't going to want to play the deck at all, knowing that it's so easily countered now, and it might just kind of shun them away. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's kind of like Split. The existence of Split, like for example in this deck, I have one basic Magic Stone of Wind. I could have easily played just a green-blue, just, you know, just for the hell of it, but I don't, because that one basic monostone might save me from Split. You never know. And the existence of Split fears me till this day to make my decks a specific way. So I feel like with the Scythe and the Bow, it's totally safe to assume that the Bahamut players are going to be totally feared into thinking that they can't play the deck they want to, and they're going to end up playing something else. So I wouldn't be too worried if you're a player, if you don't like Bahamut and you're kind of overwhelmed by it. I truly think the meta is going to be totally away from it. I mean, we don't know what it's going to be so far, but Vlad does seem like a strong option because it's the only thing I haven't seen a total answer for. So a deck like this I think could do well because you rush Vlad down while being, you know, doing really well against everything that's not Vlad, because it's just really good to lock them down and have all these big beat sticks. So yeah, I kind of went on a weird little rant there, I guess. Not rant, but, you know, informative little speech, I guess you could say. Sorry, I'm being weird now. But anyway, yeah, so Bonsai Attack is for Vlad. So thanks for watching, guys. If you guys do have any questions or suggestions, please feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below. If you want a quick copy of the deck list, either shoot me a message on Facebook or just check out the Too Long Didn't Watch version. It's a lot shorter than this video will be, and it'll just have me skim through the entire deck. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do, because I have 3 more deck profiles coming this week, finishing up all of CMF, and a bunch of kind of exciting stuff coming really soon. Once we've seen all the spoilers, I think I'm going to do like a whole week of kind of reviewing all of them. I might wait till they're actually released if we don't see all of them, because one card can change an entire color. So I might not be exactly that, might not be right now, but it will be definitely after September 25 when everything is released. But I'll definitely keep you guys updated. I love, you know, talking with you guys and making sure that you guys know exactly where I stand. I hate being one of those people that's just like, yeah, just, you know, subscribe and something will come to you eventually. Always let me know if there's anything you want to see. I'm totally up for suggestions. I normally do videos on stuff people want to see anyway. It's more exciting for me. That way I don't have to think so hard about something new. Somebody just shoots me an idea and I'm like, oh great, this sounds fun. So yeah, I'll definitely catch you guys next time.